Hi, and welcome to episode 8 of Data Mesh TV. My name is Adrian Estala. I'm the VP of Data Mesh Consulting here at Starburst. And I'm excited about today's guest because I don't know if I'm more excited about the guest himself and just kind of learning more about him, or if I'm more excited about talking data and data mesh. Probably a little bit of both. What's interesting about the show, I think, is that it's my first unmasking. We are unmasking a superhero, and it's not very often in life that you get to do that. And so the superhero I'm talking about is Scott Taylor. And if you haven't seen his master data cartoon, we'll put a link to it. It's incredible. It's incredible. Scott is out there. He is boldly laying the foundation for the data inspired, bringing truth throughout your enterprise. And so you got to watch the video. I think it's fantastic. And so Scott, welcome to the show.
What a great send up. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
I messed that up. I should have said it. I could have been a little smoother in the boldly laying the foundation for the data inspired.
For the data inspired, yes, across your enterprise. Determine the truth first before you derive meaning in data, and you will be in better shape. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Scott. I'm really happy to have you on here. I think it's going to be a fun show. We're going to have a little bit of fun with it because you're Scott Taylor, and so we'll talk about some things not data, and we'll talk about some things full of data. But hey, we were able to connect at MIT CDO-IQ. What a great event, right?
Yeah.
I got to meet a lot of people. Obviously, always the networking piece is the most important. But I find that in these events more and more, one, you're starting to see a little more data mesh. But two, I think you're starting to get people to really understand what it is. It's nice to sit in an audience and listen to companies tell their story about how they've implemented, what's worked and what hasn't worked. And what you're starting to see is a lot more maturity in these data mesh stories. And what you like about maturity is it helps everybody else that's just getting started understand, that's how I want to do it. That's what I want to avoid. That's how I want to shape mine. So it sets a path of success, if you will, for anybody else who kind of wants to follow along. And also for anyone out there that's skeptical about whether or not it's something that we can do, when you see a big company succeed with it, it certainly lets you know that, hey, this is doable. Hey, it's working. And hey, it's actually creating the kinds of outcomes that it was designed for. So hopefully you saw the same.
It was all over the agenda. I mean, the data core, if you will, the height of fashion these days is the data mesh. I stopped by your booth. I got my hot mesh hat, which I will not wear today, but staying on my own personal brand. But it was nice to see kind of that development of people.
Well, Scott, Boston was
the high part, but
yeah, Boston was burning that week, right? It was hot. And so ferocious. The hot mesh was certainly appropriate. Although at one point in the conference, we had a group kind of come through the conference and steal all the swag. I don't know.
The kids stole all the lunches. The MIT students.
No, they were like it was an exchange group from somewhere else. They just went through there. Good for them. They got out.
They walked around. It's like, who are all these grown-ups? And look at all this free lunch, and it was gone, as I recall.
Yeah. So if you see a data mesh hat in Italy, you know where they got it from.
That's it.
Hey, so there's a lot, I was studying your background, doing some research, and I saw the master data video that I mentioned a second ago. But we've both been doing this a long time. You've been dedicated to data for a lot longer than I have. And you get a lot of different areas you talk to. People are excited. I've seen you. I was on the Ravi show and you came on, and there's other shows where you've come on. And so you're all over the place. You certainly have a fantastic brand. What's your passion? Where have you in the big world of data, right? What's the one thing that that gets you really interested, gets you really excited?
You can boil my personal data philosophy and passion down to 3 words: truth before meaning. You have to determine the truth in your data. That's data management, data governance, data stewardship, master data, reference data, metadata, MDM, RDM, PIM, DAM, all those foundational activities that create, steward, govern, standardize data for an organization. You have to determine the truth first before you derive meaning out of data science, data literacy, BI, AI, ML, business intelligence. So truth before meaning is really my slogan. I'm obviously on the truth team, hence the meaning of my truth hat. But it's just a fancy way of saying GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out. what you put in is what you get out. I call that the golden rule of data. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you, and you will get better results. We have to keep pounding that message because the other stuff's very distracting. Where data ends up is the cool, sexy stuff. It's the tangible, visible value. But where data starts is, I would argue, at least as important as where it ends up. And continue to remind people and being passionate about it, trying to evangelize about it, trying to make it exciting, I hope helps the data management side of the community do the work they do, get the support they need, and get the funding that they deserve.
Truth before meaning. I'm gonna make
Truth before meaning.
That's my new. We'll make it another pink hat.
And I mean that in a business sense. People get a little wacky with like truth, personal truth. What's the meaning of my life? Or political. Forget about the word truth in politics is gone. This is about business people. This is about enterprise. This is about commercial. You can determine the truth in your organization about customer hierarchies, about product definitions, about standardizing categories. If you don't have those fundamental piece parts, you're in a world of hurt later.
I want to jump into that a bit, but I like that. I want to let's start with the word truth. So I'm interpreting data quality, truth. I'm interpreting trust, truth. I trust the data. It's got good data quality. I know where it's come from. The stewards, the owners that are curating it, that are caring for it, are doing their job. Is that encompassing all the elements of truth that you're thinking about? That's
it. That's very, trust is truth over time. Is how I think about it. Can they trust the data? Can a data scientist spend less than 80% of their time munging and wrangling data because they've got to clean it or restructure it or whatever and get to the work that they need to do? Is there a report that you've created that goes to your management that gives them insight instead of having the head of sales go, well, that's not how we look at that customer, or marketing go, well, we define that region differently. And, you walk into a meeting with another person and you've got 12 of something and they've got 9 and 3 of them are different, and you start arguing about the definition of what it is and the meeting's over. I mean, how many of us go through that constantly? So being able to secure and determine that truth, however you do it technically, is just of critical importance to an organization. And if you look at the 4th pillar, right, of data meshness, it's federated governance, it's standardization, it's interoperability, it's unique identifiers. Whatever you want to call that, it's still determining that truth in data. I wouldn't make it 4th. I would have made it the first thing, but that's just my attitude.
Love it. Love it. Truth is important. Trust is important. Meaning. And I was thinking I would argue. I said, is it truth before, or is it truth and? You think you're right. Truth before. You got to do truth before. But
it's not chicken or egg here. This is egg and omelet. You need that truth first before you create that meaning.
But the meaning is, we're not trying to dilute the meaning. The meaning is important. And I think when we think about data products, not trying to oversell it too much, but meaning, right? It's got to mean something. What I mean by meaning is, let me not. What do you mean by meaning? Let me let you describe
just analytics. I mean, I oversimplify stuff for dramatic effect, but I think it helps spread the message and make it more accessible to the business side. Truth is data management. Meaning is business intelligence. At the phylum level, that's where we're at. And there is a bifurcation of the space between data and analytics, between data management and business intelligence, between data governance and data science. The things fall naturally in that way. In our world, in the data world, in the technology world, in the data space, I think the business side gets a little bleary-eyed over all these nuances.
Yeah.
But we get in our own way. The reason I'm so belligerent about it is because I hear analytics leaders stand up who, by the way, they call it data until they don't want to call it data. Like, I'm a data scientist, but I deliver analytics. Okay, we'll deal with that later. They say stuff like, well, data's worthless unless I put analytics on it. That data's just a garbage until I add my, insight and wisdom. And I go, why does it have to be a zero-sum game here? I have never heard a baker stand up and say, this flour is worthless until I turned it into bread. They respect the ingredients. And I think there is a lack of respect in the data science community. I'll pick on them. In the analytics community, whether it's intended or not, there's a lack of respect for the hard grunt back office clerical rock breaking work that these data governance and data management people have to do to create those ingredients that data science baker can use to make a fabulous loaf of bread, which then goes into a sandwich that is the deliverable that satisfies the business, to push that metaphor as far as we can go. We need to stick together on this, because if you've got a business leader saying, I'm funding my data department, and you've got analytics people saying, well, the other part is worthless, then what am I doing that for? They're going to misinterpret that stuff. The ability to misinterpret what we say in the data space to the business side is rampant. And I think one of my core philosophical tenets as well is one of the biggest things holding the data world back is the way we talk about it.
I love a quote that
I've used.
Yeah, I heard you say this before. It's and I'm going to mess it up here, but when you come up with a term, make it something simple. Don't make it a term that you have to be in the room to explain it. It's that complexity. Yeah.
And that's my challenge with, data mesh, data fabric, data whatever, data lake house. Is that where my data goes on vacation? All these, I call it the fetch school of marketing. If you ever watched Mean Girls, which I don't know how many people derive marketing lessons from Mean Girls, but there's a moment that struck me where I forget everybody's name, but one of the mean girls keeps saying, oh, that's so fetch. That's so fetch. And the head mean girl goes, stop trying to make fetch happen. And I kind of feel that way sometimes when I see some of this new terminology come out. It's like, stop trying to make fetch happen. It doesn't matter what you call it. It matters what it does. And
I'm writing notes down here of things I want to use in my summary, and I'm running out of space. Okay. Stop trying to make pause write that one down. Let's go back to meaning, because I don't want to miss that point. I think meaning is really important. And again, you can't have meaning without truth. I wanted when I was thinking of meaning, I think it's about, and we're touching on it here, right? And so it's about making it easier for somebody to understand what you're presenting to them. So meaning, it's not just giving somebody something and saying this is what it means. Rather, it's providing something to somebody like a data product, and then enabling them to actually on their own do self-discovery, enabling on their own to not only understand what it is, but enabling them to create new meaning with other data products. And so I understand what this is. I understand what that is. I trust it. I know where it came from. I've built something new. I can describe it. I can make sure that somebody else understands what it is. And so it's meaning, and that's creating meaning, and then it's actually driving insight from that meaning, which leads me to my next topic, because you're a fantastic storyteller. I know storytelling is, if you're a data leader, you're not successful if you're not a storyteller. We sit in front of boards and executive committees, and we sell business cases. We sell the bad news. We deliver the good news. Oftentimes we sit with business teams, and we're an evangelist. We're telling them about the promise of a fabric, and then you wait a couple of years and now you're selling them the promise of a mesh. And people get tired of that, but you're a storyteller in the sense that you're trying to help people understand the problem, the benefit, and the action. And so it's important to be able to do that in very simple terms, as we've already been describing. Let me play that back though. In a data-driven world, does data at some point start telling its own story?
I think data's telling stories all the time. I don't know if people are listening. If you think about the data management side, and I believe there's two types of data storytelling out there. One for the data management side, stories about why the managing data is of strategic importance to your enterprise. One for the analytics side. You'd almost want to call data storytelling analytics storytelling, as it's mostly known, but ways to put data in a business context to drive action and deliver value. So stories about data, stories with data. In the stories about data and the data management side, your data's screaming at you all the time. And most of them are horror stories. Do you have duplicates in your file? Are you trying to do a customer churn model and you realize you're providing promotional incentives to entity, to some sort of party that you have a duplicate of somewhere else that doesn't have any activity. So are your hierarchies straight? Do you have proper categorization? I'll tell you a great data story from the data management side. Somebody puts a pie chart of our top categories, and there's a big slice there called other. That's a pretty bad story. You got to find the reason. You got to change that story. So your data is screaming at you to help fix it. Those things inhibit what anyone is trying to do in analytics or data science. You've got to get that core foundational stuff. I come back always, Adrian. You'll catch the pattern here. No matter what question somebody asks me, I always come back to those foundational principles around master data, reference data, metadata, the structural stuff. You've got to get. And we used to when I was in the data management services business, we would look for that story. We would look at somebody's file and say, okay, here's duplicates. Here's, other as a category. The only one I saw, it didn't say other. They had DK, and we asked them what that meant, and it said they meant don't know. Another form of other here, miscellaneous. Those things are bad stories that the data is telling you. On the analytics side, that's not my expertise. I'm sure it does come out, but I'm sure it needs a lot of help because data just laying there doesn't necessarily tell the story it needs to tell. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 30 books on analytics data storytelling out there. But in data management, your data is screaming at you, and you got to listen to fix it.
I like that. I think data sometimes, and obviously for a lot of us out here, we've been in situations where the data isn't screaming, or the data isn't clear, the data is surprisingly silent because it doesn't tell the story. But even when you've done everything else right, and you've got that perfect dashboard or that perfect report, and the data is screaming for action, there may be a lot of people in the room or in the organization that don't hear the screams, or don't want to hear the screams, or don't understand the screams. You still need a storyteller to say the data is telling us to do this. And sometimes you have to explain, not just, it's easy enough to say the data suggests we do Y. You have to go all the way back and say, here's how we came up with Y. This is the process that we took. This is where the data came from. This is why I can tell you that there's truth in the data that we're using. This is why I can tell you that there's meaning in the recommendation the data is screaming. And this is what we need to do. And so the storytelling sometimes is less about the data itself and more about making sure people understand the process and then explaining the action. And so I don't think we get away from storytelling. I just think that more and more we need to start, storytelling with data. And I think that's a bit what you're talking about, is actually trying to do together.
The telling part, I think people should focus on a lot too. How you are articulating that message. Are people listening to you? Do you have the right kind of intonation? Do you have the right kind of whatever it is? Are you engaging that audience, whoever they are, in something that they care about?
I remember not too long ago.
Are you sensitive enough to know when you don't have them? How many people do we know go, well, I'm not done with my slides yet. I got 15 more slides. Well,
slides.
And people are jumping in going, what about this question? What about oh, wait, we can wait till later. That's just, hearing a lecture from somebody.
Well, and a lot of us are still there. I raised my hand, not too long ago. We invest a lot of money in these big bad solutions in different parts of the organization that have, incredible capabilities built in. A lot of these modern SaaS applications have reporting, dashboards, customizable, reports built in. You log in, you see the images, and what we do, we cut and paste those into PowerPoint. And so we're not really storytelling with data, because you've got live data and then you've got stale data. And so I think we also need to improve our storytelling skills. So on the topic of storytelling, I want to kind of bring it back to data mesh a little bit. One of the questions that I asked at the panel at MIT was how we sell a business case for data mesh. And so there's storytelling there as well. There's an executive messaging, an upward messaging. When you sit down and sit in front of a board, more than likely not a board, maybe an executive business team or an executive IT team, and you're trying to help people understand the value of a mesh and the benefits to them and the reason for an investment. So I wanted to maybe you and I could just shoot around with that topic a little bit. Happy to start wherever you want. I'll let you go first if you'd like, and then we can kind of jump in.
My first question would be, why do you need to call it a data mesh? Sorry, I know we're on Data Mesh TV. I know
No,
you're,
I'm fine with that.
VP of Data Mesh Consulting. I got the Data Mesh hat. But if we're talking, well, let's say, if the scenarios we're going up into the board, are you trying to sell them the data mesh, or are you trying to sell them the results of that? Boom. My daddy taught me I'm fourth generation sales. Okay. So I go way back, obviously marketing strategy, but my daddy taught me long ago, you want to sell nice shoes or you want to sell beautiful feet. It's the benefit part of it. And I frankly do not think the board cares what you are calling it and cares about the technology or socio-technological approach that you're taking. That, for me, with all respect, feels more about like the how. You start with the why it's important to give us more money yet again for more technology and more data work that we're going to do, because whatever that because is, we just doubled the size of our business with integration by integrating 3 new acquisitions that we don't have a common customer master, and we're duplicating all kinds of efforts. We want to harmonize our quote to cash process. We've got legal exposure because we don't know who we're selling to in different countries. I'm just riffing and making this stuff up there, but those are the business problems that every enterprise faces. If a data mesh solves that, beautiful. But again, my counsel is really question yourself whether, figure out what you're selling, figure out what the pitch is, what's the point of the story. And I really wonder if it's okay, we got to implement a data mesh. That's the way to get it done. But they still want to know what's that going to do for me? I mean, how many CEOs would just stop you and just go, okay, that sounds great. I know you're excited, but why are you telling me this? Why am I in this meeting? Why aren't you talking to IT? Why do I care?
Yep.
And
I'm with you. I made that point earlier about, and I made it, kind of purposely, is like, I just sold you fabric 2 years ago. Now I'm here to sell you mesh.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, all right, so I had the fabric. Now I got the mesh. What's next? Data Spanx. Why do these words matter so much to us? I'm taking a separate view on purpose, but because I really want us to think through, does it matter what you're calling it? Does that thing, it matters to the data community, but I just really don't believe. We talk about data product. Again, wonderful concept. A lot of people get their head around it in the data space. But when I hear a description most of the time of the data product, my thinking, if my business mind goes, how's that different than just using data?
Yeah. That's
my counsel to the whole community. The vocabulary you use is critical.
Well said. I agree with all of it. If I
break it down there, I'm on Data Mesh TV, but still.
No. I mean, I heard credit to one of the presenters, Swan Cicada, I think. I sent him a note. He gave a really good presentation on data mesh as well. He speaks with a lot of passion. So I hadn't heard him speak before. And one of the things he was talking about as well is stop. You're asking the wrong question, right? It's not about mesh or fabric. It's about the business solution. And I think if I break it down, I think if you're selling upward, I think you're focused on a business solution. Typically, even with our customers, if we're talking about trying to solve a business problem, I'm not sure that I ever use the word data mesh. God forbid the word query, right? We're trying to help articulate or help the business understand how we're going to solve that problem, and not necessarily in technical terms, but more so in how long is it going to take, how much is it going to cost, and show me the milestone wins. First you'll get this, then you'll get this, and so that's what they're concerned about. And they might ask about how do you know this is going to work, right? Or we're using a proven approach or whatever. So when you're selling upward, you're focused on the business solution. I don't think you have to work too hard to find that. There are business strategies already in your organization that are describing exactly what the business is trying to do. So when you're thinking about whether or not I should look at a data mesh, go look at your business strategy, right? And look at, you mentioned acquisitions a second ago. That's a great use case, right? If we're acquiring a lot of different environments and we don't know how their data is set up or where their lakes are or warehouses or where the data is, a mesh is a good approach because it'll allow you to kind of leverage those different data sources very quickly. You're not going to be able to centralize them as fast. And so again, you look at the business strategy and then you work backwards to see if the mesh can help. Exactly. I think if I'm talking to analytics teams, I think and then I might use the word mesh. Because for an analytics team or a very specific consumption team, I can talk to them about data products. I can talk to them about domains. I can sell them on the concept of working autonomously within a domain, about working within a self-service model, about building their own data products and sharing them. They understand those attributes, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Layer down, if I'm talking to architects, it's a different. And honestly, when at the architecture level, when I talk data mesh, it sounds a lot like data fabric. We're just focused on connectivity, right? And so data mesh and data fabric share the same principles at a connectivity layer. It's about decentralized connectivity, so to speak. And so there's no difference there. I pick a different technology to do it, but you certainly adjust your storytelling up and down. But without a doubt, you have to be careful that you're not trying to sell technology at the top, because all the top cares about is all business solutions.
Isn't data mesh a fabric, only sexier?
It's a fabric with a blue coat and a truth hat.
I put together, and you're absolutely right about starting at what are the business intentions? Where is your business trying to go? And why can data help you get there? I would suggest that anybody who's trying to find business opportunities in their organization that data can help with, it's as difficult as finding grains of sand on the beach. They're everywhere. It's everywhere. Yep. It's all you have to do is talk to people in operations, in sales, in marketing, in finance, in legal, in whatever part of your organization. And the beauty of data as an opportunity, and what always excites me, and I think should excite anybody getting into this space, it is truly a horizontal value for any type of enterprise. And every enterprise has data opportunities, and every enterprise has data problems and data challenges that have to be fixed and aren't being able to leverage it the correct way, and so on. But it's not hard. It's not hard to find it. I sort of take a wry approach to this concept where we hear us talk to ourselves about the sudden realization that in what we should do with data in our part of the organization is we should focus on the business. It's like, duh, what do you even have a job for? I've never sat in a marketing meeting where a bunch of marketing executives suddenly come to this wonderful epiphany that what we should do with marketing is support the business. It's like, that's why they have marketing. Legal doesn't wonder what it's doing. So this whole psychological turmoil in the data space, to personify it as that, is just, it's holding us back. I'm just tired
of hearing it too. I could on the business. No one's ever told me this, but I'm ready for someone to tell me this. It's like, stop telling me about business outcomes and just freaking do it, right?
Just do it. Just do the job. Do the work.
Yeah. So,
call it what you want to. I don't care what you call it. Just get it done. Fix it. Get the hierarchies right. Get the duplicates gone. I start there. Get the categories correct. We have a standard in our organization.
Let's close up with some fun things, because you put a lot of fun. I imagine that you've got a wall of this funny stuff just written. You just can't be making this stuff up. But I love it. Are you selling pretty shoes or beautiful feet? I mean,
that again, my daddy taught me that. Fourth generation My father was a salesman. My grandfather was a salesman. My great-grandfather at the turn of the previous century, in the late 1800s, was one of the first 10 rabbis in Texas. So believe me, that was selling. He had a tough territory there. But we're all storytellers. My whole family's in marketing and PR and in ways to convey messaging. And so we come by it naturally. So these little quips and can
we make a cartoon together? Maybe we do that. Maybe we'll see if we get our marketing team behind. We'll do I love the master data cartoon. Let's do a cartoon.
We got the puppets. I got the puppets. I got the I have my CDO, the chief dog officer.
Maybe we'll get some friends.
The ITB, who speaks only in buzzwords. There's more categories and more episodes coming.
Maybe we'll get like Scott Hurlman and Ravi and a couple other of our data mesh friends to come on, and we'll do a cartoon. Hey, a couple
Happy
other
to.
things. What's next in your? Where are you going next? What's next for Scott? What's the next big thing?
I'm just going to keep doing more of what I'm doing more
Where can people
content.
come see you?
They could see me at, I just picked up a great gig, Big Data West in Vancouver in November. I'll be on the Modern Data Fest in some form or another with Ravit and Kate Strachny, the wonderful Kate Strachny. I'm doing the moderating again, my 5th time, the data marathon from the fabulous folks at ThinkLinkers.
Wow.
We used to do it as a 24-hour thing. We did it 4 times where we literally went 26.2 hours. Get it? Because it's like 26.2 miles in a marathon. We decided enough of that. That novelty's worn off, but we're doing a 2-day thing. And wherever you can find me on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel. I'm all over LinkedIn, wherever I can.
Are you going to be at the Orlando event, Orlando Gartner event?
That what?
The Orlando.
Not unless somebody's bringing me there. I'll tell you that straight out. So I'm not just wandering around Gartner on my own. But I work with brands, help them amplify their message, help them kind of get attention, support what they're saying. I do sales meetings, and I do a lot of internal meetings for enterprises. Yeah. Companies bring me in because they're doing the day-to-day, and they want, for instance, they're bringing in all their business stakeholders, and they want them to realize why the work they do with data is important on the data management side. And so I'll be part of that agenda and help people get excited about that stuff.
Well, I've had just a lot of fun talking to you today, Scott. The planning for the show was fun, and the show itself played out just like I thought it would.
Just went right by. Are we done? Really? Already?
What next time we'll do another? We'll have to bring you back on. Maybe we can.
Happy to come back.
Pick some other fun topics and write some more quotes. But Scott, really, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and have a great week. And I'll just close up.
Great, thank you. Cheers.